Is that spare extra?
No, it's not. No,
No, I don't.
Can
I don't need
I? Is it on?
It's not locked.
Oh.
I'll let you know when it
I was
goes
gonna
live.
say, can you grab an
We're
agenda?
not live yet.
Ooh, last one. Yeah, the last one.
Okay.
it. You want 22 to hold?
Yes, yes.
You can have this one back.
1 minute. He's getting ready to go live here. Sounds up, go ahead.
Good evening. I'd like to call to order the Budget Workshop Committee of the Whole meeting for April 9th, 2024. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay. The floor is yours.
Thank you. I'd like to start with the handouts. The first one is we replaced page 13. I think everyone has a copy of that. The next one in your handout schedule, the one we might talk about tonight, is the debt schedule. You should have a copy of that. We'll touch on the ARPA funds. You should have a copy of one that says ARPA across the top. We'll be discussing funds 446 and 447, which are the two capital funds. Should have both of those. And then time permitting, sewer plant. We'll start by just a quick review from last meeting. Anything highlighted in yellow has been a change, adjustment, or something we didn't finalize. I increased miscellaneous bank service charges. I realized that was a little low, so I added $1,000 there. This is in the Township at Large fund. The next one, for the maintenance building, operating and shop supplies. Once the maintenance building has been completed, we didn't leave them any money to have shop supplies, miscellaneous shop supplies. So I added 10 grand there.
I wouldn't put that in there.
You take that out?
No. Yeah. I mean, they're not going to need a bunch of all of a sudden new things.
Okay.
They have the equipment. They have, you know, if they need something specific, they let us know, and you know, we have the funds to do it.
Okay. Parks, in the miscellaneous, or the maintenance parks in general, it was originally 5, with an additional 5. We don't have a lot of detail on that yet, but we'll do the parks review and see what comes up there.
Do you want to go over this now that we're here?
We'll get to it. We'll just go down the change that we discussed last week, or last period. The next thing is, we'll cover that in the debt schedule, is Craig brought this up, paying off some debt. And I'll show how this was able to work. So I'll leave that yellow for now, and we'll get into a conversation on that. Legal fees for the Teamsters Union. We didn't have anything in there, so put 10 grand in for the Teamsters Union contract. We can also get this later.
Are we going to need, just go back to that real quick, do we need that?
Yes.
And we just, when did,
He's
is that a read that's going back
He's going
through?
through it right now.
And just go through it?
Yeah.
Continuing.
Goodness gracious.
Okay.
Is that a 3-year contract?
Yeah,
It's every 3 years.
so, we might not get the bill till 3 more years from now, but we have to budget for it.
Yes. We can talk about this a little bit more when we get to the fire department. We talked a little bit last meeting about a ordinance officer with legal fire burns. Do you want to have that discussion now or when we do the fire department?
You might as well explain it now.
Okay.
Because we couldn't collect if ordinance does it, we talked to chief to say, if we budget 15,000, can we hire a fire personnel to do it? Because then we can collect those tickets through the court system.
How much is an illegal burn ticket?
It depends.
75s, I believe.
That's the first offense, then it goes up from there.
50. The thing is we, even when ordinance did it and they put out 300 plus, they didn't hand out one ticket because they didn't need to because they got compliance.
Right.
That's all they care about is compliance. I believe that the fire department's the same, but if they go to an illegal burn, in my opinion, if the fire department shows up in a fire truck, they should be ticketing them no matter what.
Understand.
That's why the thought behind,
The problem is, if ordinance goes out and they issue a ticket, we can't
We have no-
recoup it. If people decide not to pay it, we have no recourse.
Well, I'd like the
The fire
compliance part,
department
but
does it.
spending $15,000 to recoup $1,000 in tickets doesn't make a lot of sense.
that's why.
We don't do anything at all. 'cause
That's
we don't
why I
collect
thought
anything.
with ordinance, you have, $16 an hour people that are just going out getting compliance. And
Right.
take one less thing off the fire department, even if they are gonna hire somebody else. That was my thought behind it.
And I'm all about, giving people the first go around, okay, this is your warning, and you get compliance, and if they go out a second time, then there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. But like you said, if the fire department goes out there, they've got to be charged.
That's where the second time is, if you're going to the same call, again, the next weekend, you call the fire department and go with you. And
Because
they
if
write a ticket.
an ordinance officer
Yes.
issues a ticket and they don't pay it, we can't put it on the tax as
Right.
like a grass cutting or weed cutting. We don't
But the
have
ordinance
to-
department never
we can't
has
do
to
that.
issue a ticket, because if they go to a second complaint, they just call the fire department to go with them, if we want to ticket somebody. But that's up to the board.
Yeah,
I-
and we had, originally, they had, an ordinance officer went to the fire department and we were doing it that way.
Yeah, we just got compliance. We just did when we were hammering on it.
And the chief said it wouldn't be a big deal, he doesn't get that many anymore.
That's because
He's
they
here.
don't go
He can
looking.
speak on it.
That's because you guys don't go looking.
So, yeah, and
They're
right
not
now, we
pulling
are
it.
completely complaint-based.
Right.
So we don't go out looking for illegal burns. My thought process on it right now, if we put somebody in that's gonna sound kinda odd as a customer service base, where they're gonna go out to the residents, they're gonna explain the ordinance, we should see a decrease. So I do have concern though with it being on weekend evenings, we are gonna make sure that, we're gonna have to make sure we have staffing for it.
So this $15,000 is not gonna cover 7 days,
No, so it's just Friday, Saturday, Sunday is what we
just
discussed.
weekends.
Yes.
Not
Yep.
weeknight during the week,
Correct,
evenings.
correct.
Are you gonna, would you
I'm
be
good to
paying?
get us to get compliance, because we do get a lot of complaints about illegal
So are you
burns.
saying leave it with the fire department or give it to ordinance?
I'd like to leave it with the fire department. Like you said, if the ordinance goes out, first time, warning, okay, please don't do it again. Here's a copy of the.
Well, ordinance won't go out, they wanted the staff.
They won't go out.
That money right there is the
No,
staff.
we don't,
Send the
we don't
ordinance.
have an ordinance officer.
Not on evenings or
Next
weekends.
weekend.
That money right there was put in for ordinance to have people evenings and weekends.
So Chief, are you talking about paying somebody if you did this on a per diem basis as well?
So this would be, we can try and get from the department now, if we can get enough people. Again, with it being Friday, Saturday, Sunday, we may not get the commitment. So the other thought that we had is if we can get somebody maybe in school, maybe somebody that's looking to go into the fire service, it may be a good avenue for them to kind of get their feet wet with it.
It's gotta be somebody that's got a little bit of background and knowledge of what they're doing though. We can't just grab somebody or anybody.
Yeah.
When ordinance did it, the time they did it, it worked very well. I don't know why we're trying to give it. Just
Because the
straight
last
to
time, the very last time, it wasn't with ordinance. We had moved ordinance to the fire department. That's the very last thing we did with illegal burning.
When ordinance was handling it.
No, fire
Be-
department was. They were under the fire department. They were under the chief. That was the last thing we had.
Yeah, you're right. When Caitlin went over there and worked for chief and hired directly,
Yep.
right?
What's the best avenue to get compliance? Having the ordinance officers go out there on the weekend?
I feel like that is 100%.
When we had it under the fire department, they were doing the same thing and it worked out fine. They said they didn't have that many.
Well, like, I don't think they were going and looking either, though.
Well, chief
Even when
knows
Kate-
that they'd be going and looking.
Yeah.
I mean, it's worth a try for 1 year and see what
Let's
happens. If
do
it
it.
doesn't work, then chief
Yeah.
tells us, hey, it's not working, let's do something
I just
else.
know that the smoke in the community's gone up.
Yes.
So
Yeah, a lot.
we want to decrease it. We have to. We can't be complaint based. People don't call and complain. So we have. That's one thing we have to be proactive with.
And that, in kind of ways we discussed, the idea is go out, do some education. Hopefully we get compliance with education. I don't think most people are doing that on purpose. But again, if they are, then it's going to be a
That's-
completely different conversation then.
That's where the somebody going out and stopping at the burns. You educate them, put it out, and hopefully that person doesn't repeat.
Yes.
So,
Yes.
yeah, let's move on. Let's leave it with fire and let them have a year with it and see how it goes. And if next year you want to change it, the ordinance department's always ready to do it. It's not a big deal. They know the ordinance and it's, so.
Financially, we could move this to Department 705, which is community action. So we can send, when they go out, they can send us, this person went out so often, and we send them, like a per diem, whatever,
Okay.
out of this 15,000.
So if it's under community action though, and it's not directly out of fire department, can we go back after that
Yeah,
money?
so it would still be a fire department personnel doing it.
Okay, so even if it comes out of community, okay.
Mhm.
Is that what we want to do?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Chief's willing to do it for a year and see
No,
how
I'm
it
talking
works.
about,
Oh.
move to community action. Is that what?
that's fine.
Just so
As
Bob
long as
knows.
they're okay with that's where it being. Yeah.
Yeah, just so Bob knows where to go put it.
The next item, this is a recent item, ordinance with emergency radios. I know Al and Damon brought that up. Do you have any more information on that?
I don't think we need any more emergency radios. I would pull that out. I don't know where
Pull
that
it
came
out?
from. This was to add emergency radio, I think, in the supervisor's office, and who's
In
else?
maintenance.
I don't see it being necessary. If we have an emergency, we all have cell phones. I've been here full-time 8 years, and there was,
The idea was
one of
that-
these radios was in my office when I came, and I gave it to the fire department.
Okay, take it out.
That's my opinion. I don't feel like we need it. Maintenance doesn't need to have an emergency radio.
Okay. Street lighting, I just moved it from the assessed to at large. So it's just swapping 15,000 from one to the other.
Why?
I didn't have enough money assigned to at large. I put too much money in assigned
Okay.
or assessed. It's still the same net.
Yeah.
As to the
I just
same
was curious. I didn't know.
Just a line
what-
item change. We'll get to the parks in a moment. Transfer out. We'll be transferring $300,000, and we'll get to the CIP plan. That'll go to the CIP plan. We're transferring $1 million to the capital asset revolving fund. This is for sidewalks if we decide to do those, pickleball, maintenance buildings.
So what With the sidewalks, here's my personal thought on the sidewalks. Trudy and I have talked a little bit about just doing one sidewalk this year. I feel like this year we should continue on with engineering, get all the sidewalks that we can have approval for, have all of our easements in place, get them in a group, and once we do that, take them to the state and the Safe to Sidewalks program, because we're not using ARPA funds anymore for them. Even the one at Summerfield we talked about, I feel like that could be possibly a candidate, and I would hate for us to just do it carte blanche out of our fund when it could be, because we're not in a hurry with it. It's not ARPA anymore. I feel like we table them all, like doing them this year, budgeting for it, and just continuing on with the engineering. Even Jackman Road, I feel like that's still a possibility.
If we move
That's
that-
my opinion. I think you should pull it out.
Well, if we move the money, even if we don't do the sidewalks, it'll be there, so when you decide to do it, the money will be
I
there.
would not do that.
Because it's a revolving fund, it's just sitting there.
We can always move it. I don't feel like there's any point in moving it right now when we don't really know if we can ever do that. You can always pull it out of the rainy day fund.
Well, I would like to at least put money in there for this one that's ready to go, that we put all the time and effort into.
Jackman?
Even if we just do it to the property line, at least we'd get it in. And Summerfield, that's not gonna be a school one's not gonna do that one, that's to the park, where all the kids are riding on Summerfield Road, a major thoroughfare.
I would definitely,
That's the Parmalee.
I would definitely wait, because you might not be able to do that one either with easements. You could have two
We
or
don't
three
know.
people
But
goof
if
that
we
up.
Put the money there, we'll at least have it.
Well, that's what I'm saying.
And
If we
that's a
can-
big concern for me.
If we continue on with the engineering and make sure we have solid projects with easements and everything in
The
place.
easement's the only thing we're waiting for those projects.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So once we get the easements, if we know we have it, then at that point, we go to Safe Routes to Schools and start the whole process with them. And then next year, you
But
throw
what I'm
money where
saying
you
is
want to.
Summerfield Road is not gonna be a safe route for schools. That's to a park, not a school. The other one will be to
Yeah,
Monroe
but-
Road.
Monroe Road ends
No,
up,
we were gonna end at Kimberly, because there's no way to get it from Kimberly to Summerfield. This
I
was
haven't
just
heard that yet.
Summerfield to
I don't know where
Door.
we're hearing that.
We heard it from our engineers.
They didn't tell me that.
So this one would just be Monroe and Summerfield to Parmalee Park, where all the kids are riding their bikes and walking and skateboards and everything else in the road.
I don't know. We're just guessing that Safe Routes to Schools would, say no on that. You don't know. It could take you to an area where a bus goes. That could be considered Safe Routes to Schools. I would just hate to possibly lose money from the state. It's not an emergency.
No, but I don't wanna lose it out of here either, in case we do need it.
Just a quick question on Jackman. Didn't we see numbers at one point, they were around 2.25? And now it's 155?
That was before we actually had estimates from the engineer.
Because I knew it was numbers up there.
Jackman was the most expensive one.
Mm-hmm.
Your main cost is, the apartment and the intersection.
Yeah, the intersection.
So I don't, Trudy, you're worried about the money if we pull it out, you're gonna get it back. Why would you think we wouldn't get it back if
Because right now it's earmarked for that.
it's your mark?
Just chalk it out.
Okay.
All those are earmarked for those projects.
Either way, it doesn't really matter in the end. You're gonna take this money, you're gonna pull it out of the rainy day fund, you're gonna put it in another fund. It's gonna sit there until the projects are go and the board votes on them. Or you pull it out, you do the projects with engineering and get them ready to go, and then next year you budget for them. It doesn't really matter how you do it.
Well, if it doesn't matter, then leave it there.
Well, because we're pulling $1 million, in the negative out of this year's fund to do it.
But it does bring us to the 50%.
No, we're still at 50%.
But
With
if we
this
pull
in.
the $1 million out and put in that fund, are those projects even gonna get started? In this budget year?
Yep, here's an example. On your sheet, you're gonna look at the one called Fund 447 Capital Assets. That's where we'll be at. You can run through these assets real quick to answer your question. This is a partner to Fund 446, which is the capital improvement plan. These projects on here are under 6 years. So the first example is IT computer equipment. We expect to replace that in fiscal year 2027. So we have a couple years to budget for that. We put in there what the expected replacement value is, how much we allocated in this current fiscal year, how much I propose to allocate in fiscal year 2025. And then column I is the total of all the allocations. Column J is how much funds are still required. So we have 2 more fiscal years after the current budget year. We need to save $15,000 per year. And that's how it works for all these projects going down.
So the 1,000,001, would that cover
Yep.
all the sidewalk projects?
Yes, so what you can do is look on column G at the very bottom, so probably be your page 3 possibly. That's how much is allocated in fiscal year 2025 if you add them all up.
I've given my opinion, so what's the pleasure of the board? You wanna leave the money in there and pull money out of our rainy day fund, and, I mean, we're gonna have a negative this year with our general fund, or with this budget to do this. That's why I don't like it personally, when we don't have solid projects. We've seen what can happen with one person with the apartment pulling or not signing the easements, the project's dead. So that was my thought behind hold off budgeting, do the engineering,
We
get
already
solid
have the
plans.
engineering.
None of it's done though.
We have all the engineering, we just need them to go down and get easements.
Yeah, that's the most important part. That's the most important part.
When are they gonna try to do that?
Whenever we give them the go.
Well, no, we've given them the go. They've given us the go, Al and I, and Damon to help to get the easements, to save money. So that's what we're waiting on. Right, Al? So
have some commitments.
we're trying to save money. I can just tell you this, it's, you know, we'll get on it, you know, right away, but it's hit or miss. You don't know what people are gonna say. I mean, I would definitely not put $155,000 for Jackman Road in there, because I don't think you're gonna get support from the board to do from Jackman Road School in front of the township right now. Because you're gonna be taking sidewalks into an empty ditch. And it's just not,
I just don't know that the Jackman Road project is
it's
anywhere
dead
near
right
to
now.
go.
It's dead right now, unless we wanna
Yeah.
put sidewalks in front of the Jackman Road School and, the township hall.
No, not yet.
Which is, in my opinion, you know, would I like to do it to make it the apartment owner, you know, kind of squeeze him to do the project more? I don't know. I don't think it'll help.
Okay.
And then people will be walking into an empty ditch or his.
It doesn't make sense.
It doesn't
I
make
mean,
sense to do, so I would pull that
Okay.
whole thing off right now. If we get the easements from them, you put it in next year and do it.
Mm-hmm.
Or you do a budget adjustment and do it. You can always do a budget adjustment, even if we didn't budget for these 3 things. And pull it out some other time.
It's still the
But
general,
we need to move on though. Do we want to think about it and
Yeah.
come back to it?
so, okay. Talk to you later.
I want Summerfield to stay, so.
I'm fine with Summerfield staying if we're getting close to ready to go, but
Well, it sounds like all
Jackman,
we need is easements.
Jackman is, and I agree that it's a dead issue right now, so.
Secord Radine's a good one still. I mean, that we just have to get easements on that one too. And sometimes people say, well, I mean, it took 7 months to get a no answer out of the apartment owner. So,
If we didn't spend this money on sidewalks, what would you spend it on?
I don't know. We could think about it.
So leave it in the capital improvement revolving fund as unassigned. I do have a line for that.
But honestly, if the park millage goes down, you need a lot of money for the parks.
So we could leave it in unallocated
You
until
can
we
leave
get
it
a plan.
unallocated. Eventually, we're gonna, if you get no millage for the parks, eventually you're gonna have to come up with a large amount of money for the park system. So,
I'd be fine with leaving the Summerfield Road in and doing the unallocated. I mean, Secor and Dean probably could leave in too if you think that's close to going.
it's the same thing. Everything's ready, you just need engineering. I mean, if you wanna leave those two in there,
We
and,
just need the easements.
we'll go for the easements. If we don't get the easements, you pull the money out and put it back in another area. Okay, let's do that.
So you want to keep Secor Road
Leave those two in,
and take out Jackman
take out Jackman.
and move that 155,000 down to unallocated.
Yes.
And then that unallocated, you
But
can
but
spend
is
it on
that what
whatever you
the
want.
board actually voted on, 50%?
Yes.
Okay, so how much has been in there since the board voted?
You mean how much is
Like
it?
what percentage have we been at since the board?
50%. We're
So
at
how
50%.
are we taking $1 million out of it and remaining at 50%?
Yep, okay, we can go back and we're almost there. So this was the 1.1 million going to the capital improvement revolving fund. We'll get to the debt payoff. This will bring us down, we're gonna look in column P. We have our revenues of 5.483 million. Our expenditures of 7,252,000 there. So we're gonna be taking 1.768 million out of the fund balance. So we have our beginning balance, we have our ending balance. Now to the ending fund balance, we need to hold restricted funds. There has been a change to make all this work. At the beginning of the year, we had 1.2 million in restricted funds. Those restricted funds were prepaids, the 179,000 we were holding for the parks, long-term debt, and the money we were holding for the fire department. The 179,000 for the parks, we're gonna take that for the pickleball court. The long-term debt, if we unrestrict those funds, we can pay off some debt. The ambulance, the fire chief now has enough money on his own through transport fees.
What's our percentage interest rate, our interest rate for the debt for the payoff?
That should be on your debt schedule in your packet. The one for the township hall, which should be the first one, is at 4%. The other one that we're paying off, or proposed to pay off, is the SAD bond. That's at 2.5%.
Personally, I don't think it's very smart to pay off low-interest loans.
Well, the thing that's not on here is the Bank of New York increased their fees. Every time we pay an invoice, it was $200, now it's $750.
Just
And
in
how often do
case.
we pay an invoice?
Monthly?
No, once a
Or
year.
Once a year,
So
okay.
it's $700 a year,
For each invoice, or for each loan.
once a year.
So we pay 3 loans.
Yeah.
So you're paying $2,100. All I'm saying
Yes.
is that kind of money, you can make a lot of money on interest.
It's a wash. I did the math on that. It's a wash.
So
If we do nothing-
my point is what if something else comes up that we have to get a loan on,
Yes.
like the sewer fund? We already have the loans in place, we have the money set aside.
That's the
You're paying
opportunity.
off low-interest loans, and if we ever need loans, you're gonna be going after 8-9%.
You're absolutely correct. That's the opportunity cost. What do we do with the excess cash?
It's a
We
gamble.
can pay off debt or spend it on something else.
Chris, you did some of the ARPA funds and reinvestment on some of that. What kind of rates are we looking at right now that you've been able to get?
Well, the rate is fluctuates with the ICS account, but I can tell you monthly, we've been bringing in over $7,000 in interest. Just in that account alone, and that was,
5.5%, 6%.
Yeah, so
It's a little less than that, I think it was 4.25.
because it fluctuates.
It
each month.
fluctuates.
So, yeah, I mean, I'd have to agree that, I struggle with when we're only paying 2.5%. Where we can tie this in with funds to make 4.5, potentially 5.
We would get rid of these bonds, though.
Yeah,
This
but
is not a good company to keep bonds with.
Was this
what if,
Yes.
what if we have to do bonds with the parks? Say they do get their millage and we have to do bonds with the parks, we could,
We would not go with
Take-
Bank of New York.
We would not do bonds anymore. We would borrow
well,
the
we
money.
could borrow, we could loan the money to them.
We could loan the money to
But
them.
if we pay this off, we won't have the money to loan to them.
No, we have plenty of cash on
But we
hand.
could have more money, I mean, if it's a large amount of money.
We're only talking, let me go to the next one.
Don't get me wrong, I think it's a good idea to pay off debt, but not 2.5%.
In the grand scheme of things, this is
That was
very
just
low
one of them, though.
dollars.
The other one was
Yeah.
not 2.5%.
4.
Mm-mm.
4 is
So
extremely low
look at some
right
of
now,
these
too.
interest payments.
Yeah.
We're only talking
Yeah.
325,000, which is, we got money in the water fund, the sewer fund. If we need to borrow money, we have cash sitting
Correct.
in those funds. We would not bond ever again. Ever. Hopefully, never.
And the one is an SAD that we're still getting money on every year
Mhm.
that we're paying off, just to get it out of the Bank of New York.
So it's an opportunity cost.
In our opinion, well worth it.
I'm fine with dumping anything to do with New York. I mean, that's,
They just nickel and dime us.
Yes.
They
Okay,
constantly
let's
nickel and
move on
dime
then,
us.
we have support.
So with those changes, our restricted funds would be to the prepaids, and that would be for invoices, and we have a few other small prepaids. The remaining restricted funds would be the 50% of the fund balance. With the changes we've already made, that means unrestricted, that we could just do whatever we want with, is $23,000. If the budget passes as is. That's how much money we have to play with, to stay within the 50% fund balance.
So the sheet we got from the park board tonight, which I'm not sure why we got tonight, could we take some of that money and stick it in maintenance so that way we can do some of these projects?
23 grand.
So why don't we just do that? Because we know this needs to be done. They're not gonna get a millage this year. With the pavilion repair, did they come to the Lions board? The Lions was gonna pay for that,
Lions went to them.
but they were gonna pay for it.
They were gonna pay $7,000.
So are you guys working with the Lions then to get that money?
They haven't talked.
So is the cost to
Yes.
repair it $20,000?
That's their estimate.
So you would need 14 or 13, right?
Lions went and got estimates last year when they offered them the 7,000, and the estimates were between 16, 17,000, so they're estimating now they've gone up. But we had budgeted $7,000 to give the park board to help with that.
Why don't we just take the 23 and stick it in the maintenance? So if you guys want to do these projects, I watch your meeting. All you got to do is put the members together and come to the board.
Well, the way this should work is they were given multiple opportunities to provide these projects for the capital fund months ago. The deadline was months ago. They refused to provide the projects so we could plan for them.
We have an extremely dysfunctional park board right now. And what I'm saying is take the money, stick it in there, because we're going to need to do a couple of these projects. And, you know, so.
All right, so here we go. We're going to take, this may change again, how many other, we haven't finished. Let's do the parks now, and then that, if we make any changes, that'll give us a good number at the bottom that we can, because this number may change after we go through the parks budget. That'd be Department 751. And then we can decide how much money we'll move.
So are we on parks?
We're on parks.
Okay, so I want to say something. Unfortunately, Todd Bruning's not here. This is another budget meeting, which is extremely important for a trustee. So at their meeting, I want the park board to understand and Todd to understand that the supervisor doesn't put the budget together as a whole and set it, and that's what it is. That's what these meetings are for. I watched the meeting and we're talking about the supervisor. This meeting right here, the board could change whatever Bob has put together. Bob put together all this with the help of all the department heads. At this point, the board can change whatever they want. So it has nothing to do with the supervisor at this point. So I want the public to know, the park board to know, because it was frustrating to watch, to say the least, that a trustee's continuing to give out poor information. So I wanted to start with that. Go ahead, Bob.
All right, most everything is standard on here from the prior year. One question I had to the park commission is they're holding $10,000 for engineering fees. For what?
Yes, we wanted to save those for the pickleball courts. We think it's going to cost more than what we have, the 41% we have left, or the 60% we have left of those. Yeah.
So the pickleball courts cost more than the $315,000?
The engineering fees. We wanted to keep that 10,000 for the engineering fees for that. We anticipate more engineering fees than the original.
In my humble opinion, I think we table any extra thing they're wanting to do and wait for a new park board. In my opinion.
Well, if I can speak,
You
I
can
would
speak.
say what I asked you for the Wet Wheeler and Anstead parks, that is something that I've talked with Pat, and that's something they can't do. They cannot spray for invasive.
Any maintenance item we'll handle. But I'm saying any major projects moving forward with this park board, I don't think is a good idea. And you would have to agree with that to a certain extent.
The pickleball courts, I think we could go forward with. Anything else, I'm not sure we could. With the divided board.
I think you guys continue on getting it prepped, but it's, that's my opinion. And I know it's an election year, people want to be careful what they say, but I'm not running, so there you go.
So my main question is the pickleball courts with these new engineering fees gonna cost more than $315,000?
As far as we know, it's not going to, except for those engineering fees. So yes, if you add the engineering fees to it, it'll cost more than $315,000. Was that what you're asking?
Yes.
Yes.
So now we're 3.25, give or take.
Now, how much money do they have?
$315,000. They came to the board a couple meetings ago
Yeah.
and asked for $315,000, the board approved.
Okay.
For pickleball,
That was to bid it out.
to bid it out.
I thought the engineering was completed already.
Apparently, now, Chris isn't here, and he's the one that's got the figures, and he said, no, there's more that needs to be done. That wasn't done at the original.
And this is my point. Here we are at budget time, and we still have unknowns.
And
We have a
that's-
piece of paper thrown at us that's probably way off. This is why my personal opinion, you put a stop. Even in the money that we gave, you put a stop. Let them continue with the engineering, you know what I mean? Get it prepped, but a new board take it on and handle it. That's my opinion. It's just,
How close
it's too
are
out
we
of
to pulling
control.
the trigger and getting the pickleball courts going? We need the engineering fees, because I don't want to sit here and get nickel and dimed again, like other projects. Oh, we got to do this and we got to do that.
That's why I'm a little.
You're not gonna get
confused.
nickel and dimed by Manica Smith. I mean, they're doing exactly what they probably told them in the beginning. It's just that the information didn't get
Is it-
to us or somewhere along
Is
the
that
line
what
it
they're
was
waiting
missed.
for is engineering stuff?
We
She would have
approved
probably
it-
really-
We approved to
Right.
bid it out.
We approved
So
that.
that's why I thought the engineering was done, because how are we bidding it out if the engineering wasn't done? That's why I was a little confused.
Why don't we leave it in there and we'll do some research on it tomorrow?
I'll leave it yellow.
Yeah. If we get this project, this one project done.
Al, could you do some looking in tomorrow for the engineering? Would you call Manica Smith and see what the deal is with?
Yeah, we'll find out.
Okay, it's not something that's supposed to be.
She was talking about this one here, the 8,000. That's probably because they have to be certified, right? What they're talking about there.
none of our guys are certified.
Right, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, so that one we couldn't do. We could do general maintenance, but we couldn't do that.
Mm-mm.
Yeah, the Anstead and Wheeler estimates were given to me by the Nature Conservancy. If we had them do it, that's the prices that they would charge us.
So the $8,000 is the one that we can't do.
I don't think we have a problem doing any of these things, you know, on the bottom. Taking the trees down, I mean, Chris Schlegel said there's 5 of them, and he can get it done for, what he said, $500 a piece to drop them. I mean, I don't see a problem with doing a lot of the general maintenance things.
Yeah, those things.
Parmalee Park survey, $10,000, why are we surveying Parmalee Park?
That was Aaron's estimate to if we put the skate park there.
Well, that's a
But
waste of
again,
money.
that's an if.
Yeah.
So
I'm
that's a
crossing
waste of
that one
money.
off.
Move, replace pavilion at Samaria Park, $350,000.
And that was Chris's plan to expand the parking lot, and to do that, he wanted to move that pavilion. And that's the estimate to do that and the parking lot.
Okay.
That's something that we can probably put in the CIP plan, but he wanted to get it done as soon as possible.
What's the reasoning for moving a parking lot? Is the pavilion in disrepair to where it's gotta be replaced?
No, it's not in disrepair, but we used to be able to park across the street when there was ball games. They used to be able to park at the church parking lot. That has been sold, and the people are no longer allowed to park there. So that cut down about half of the spaces. When they have ball games, there's no place to park.
That park is not set up for ball games, period.
Yeah,
And it's a hazard when you have an extra 60 cars parked on the road.
I-
So it probably wasn't the best idea to give it to an actual team that's having travel league games there and attracting a large amount of people. Yeah, you've got 25 spots. The rest are parking on the road, which is a highway.
It's a busy road.
It's a highway. You got semis, double, you know, coming through there. So they're wanting to move the gazebo to the left of the building and make that parking over there,
And
which
you
isn't a
can
bad
maybe get
idea.
another 12 in there.
But the whole, quite frankly, the whole front and the whole side could all be parking. It's not a bad idea. It's just a major project.
Yeah.
It's something that, you know, if they got a millage, they could plan for. I mean, it's just throwing it at us. It's not gonna probably be the best idea right now.
Well, that's
350
why I
that
didn't-
seems high though.
$350 to set up a parking lot, move the,
Well, that's just the building.
oh, no, that's just that pavilion.
Okay, because see,
They're not talking the whole pavilion, the building.
right? No, the
They're
pavilion.
talking just
They're
that little.
talking
But see,
expanding the
but
parking
this is
lot is the
split here.
question
That's
mark.
that's what's confusing. It's split saying parking lot question mark, and in the pavilion itself 350. That's what I'm saying. That's a high number for just the pavilion.
Right, that
Crazy
pavilion, I mean,
number.
It's
That's
the
a-
pavilion at the top of the parking lot, not the gazebo. That big pavilion up there at the top.
oh, the one to the right.
Yeah.
So you're
Yeah.
talking about expanding
Yeah.
that?
No, they're talking
So
about
you-
moving
moving
it.
that.
Moving it and over to the left, and then expanding the parking lot a bit that way. You
Move
can't
the
go too
parking lot
far
straight
because it depends who's playing. If it's the girls softball
Yeah.
gonna play there, then that's not so bad. But if it's baseball, you're gonna be
Can
hitting
we move on?
windshields.
Can we move on?
Yeah.
The change in this year's budget, the maintenance for the parks will be moved to Department 265. They will have in maintenance this year a total of 60,000 to divide up between the projects. Some of that will include about 10, 12, 13 will include mulch.
Plus the 23, right?
Plus the 23, we
So
can add that
you
now.
got $87,000. So there's plenty of money to do the project, Carol.
Okay.
So I added the 23 in there.
Okay.
Okay, we good on parks?
What line did you put that in, Bob?
I can tell you,
So the one that says
387.
let me go back.
387, I thought it was 387.
387.
1 second, I'm almost there. 387. But because this is a line item budget, once we get the numbers down, we can move between buildings, grounds, equipment in general. So we will have a total of, it says 88,000 to split up for maintenance for the parks in some
It's
fashion.
a lot of money. You can get a lot done with that.
It's a lot. In the past, it's generally been 30,000. So this is 50,000 more than past budget.
So that was one of the questions that the park board had talked about. Do they have to come to our board and get permission to fix something? And does our board just to get to fix stuff in the parks? You know, so could you explain, Bob, what the point of us moving it from their lines to our lines?
My experience, especially, I had two experiences. Tables and drinking fountains.
Yeah.
Disasters. That ain't happening again. If we move it to the parks or to the maintenance department, we just take care of it. They tell us what we need, what they need.
They tell us what we need.
Or ask.
No, we can't do it without you guys. So you tell us what you need, and we just do it.
Okay, my question then about Wheeler and Ansted. When I talked to Pat last year, we walked Ansted and we walked Wheeler. He said his guys were not certified yet to be able to do that foliar spraying.
Have they taken the test, Dale?
Jeff did. They're in the process.
Okay.
So that's why I said we need a separate line item for those two items.
Right,
Because
and
we'll have to.
with that 23,000, put it on our agenda, and we'll take care of it.
Okay, all right,
So anything you want done, put it on our agenda. You don't have to do bids,
okay.
nothing, just put it on our agenda, we'll do it. And that's another thing I want to tell you, when you guys put it on your agenda and do a project, if you only get one bid, you can still move forward. As long as you make an effort to get 3 bids.
Okay. We talked about the, whoops, shoot. I got all these notes in here, I'm starting to hit things. Too
Can't keep
fancy.
track of what he's doing.
Can't keep track of
He's like a
my-
mad scientist. This guy.
Well, there's a lot going on.
Oh my gosh.
Has anybody played with this spreadsheet yet? That I sent you?
A little bit.
I'm afraid.
I believe that.
I'm afraid. No, I have, I looked at them.
It's pretty cool. Anyway, the debt payoff. Any questions on the debt payoff? Did we decide?
Like I said, that was my only concern was the debt payoff and we're gonna move forward with.
Move forward so I can
Bang it
that.
off. Joe doesn't like New York, so.
Joe doesn't like New York.
That was my only concern is I would personally never pay off a 2.5% loan. Right now, with the interest rates at 8%.
It's a mathematical.
Not smart.
Well, it's a mathematical wash with the fee increase. The fees eat up the interest. It's not that much money. We're only talking 300,000. The interest we get on 300,000 is not that much, especially the difference between the rate on here 2.5 and we're only getting 4.5. That's 2%. The fees eat that up. It becomes a wash.
No, I doubt it becomes a wash.
It's a wash because it's only 300,000. Now, if we're talking $1 million, then it's much different.
Because you're
He's
talking
talking
more,
interest versus interest.
you're talking more than the fees, you're talking the fees plus the interest you're gonna pay throughout the year.
Right.
Yeah, that's, so he's not talking the bottom line.
Right.
Fee for the,
We're good, move on. We're paying it off.
All right.
I get it. It was just great idea, Craig.
Well, what are we paying off?
We're on your debt sheet.
I don't even know if I have a debt sheet. I
You
looked
have debt
through.
sheet. It's called debt
It's-
schedule across the
right
top.
here.
That's
No,
just a
sewer
sewer plant.
It's in here. Hold on.
I'm pretty sure I don't. If I do,
I'm with
I've been
Craig.
trying. I've been trying to go through it because I was.
It'll be a single page.
Yeah, I don't have that.
that's,
Yeah. You can have mine.
was that the packet that was in your box this week?
This is last week. I didn't
No.
get a new. I didn't get a new packet.
No, the one that's still here.
Oh, it's in your box
Okay,
downstairs?
that's
You
where it
never
is
picked
then.
up?
Here.
No, I'm still working on my original. Thank you. Okay, so what are we looking at? We're paying off.
The first one is Township Hall. That's
This
called
is what
Bedford
I'm-
Township
yeah.
06.
Okay.
And that one's at 4%.
Yeah, so what he's saying is by the time we pay fees and the interest rate difference, it's a wash, so
It's a wash.
pay it off. You good?
The other one is Bedford Special 13. And those are 2 SADs that we bonded out
Okay.
from the Bank of New York.
We're good, moving on,
All right.
pay it off.
We covered Fund 447 a little bit. I want to jump into Fund 446. This would be your long one. And Craig, you probably may or may not have this. It's the same one from last meeting.
I have this one, 446.
446. In our transfer out, we're transferring out $300,000 to Fund 446. What we need to look at on this one is pretty much the same criteria. Their criteria is projects have to be greater than 7 years. We've already started some in fiscal 2024, the current year. We need to ask the planning commission to review these lifespans, make sure they're accurate. Anything under 6 years needs to come off of this and go to the capital asset revolving fund. An example would be on the second page. There's one highlighted in the middle called Road 5-Year Road Plan. They have that marked as yearly. We fully fund that through the annual budget. The $100,000 they put there is a duplicate amount. So one idea that came up was using that money to replace the dump truck that just broke.
Well, it's not broke. It just needs a lot of general maintenance items, which
It needs like
we
$5,000.
probably should do anyways and keep it as a spare. And I mean, you still could have a lot of uses for it, but I do agree, we need to move forward buying a dump truck at some point. It could be now. You have the money if you want to do that.
This is where the money would come from.
I think it's a good idea, the dump truck. I mean, if it has another major thing, we've had a ton of stuff we've had to fix on it in the last 2-3 years, a ton of stuff. You know, it could go 3-4 years without any major problems, but, you know, it's older and we definitely need to replace it. But I think we should fix it, do the general maintenance items and keep it, because we've done so much work to it.
There would be enough money left over to fix it and purchase the new one.
I'm in agreement with that, move it and do
Get
it.
a dump truck
you know.
for $100,000?
No, it'd be much less than that.
This is a smaller dump truck.
Oh, smaller.
And it doesn't
I'm
have
thinking
all,
of-
it doesn't have the plows, we already have a plow, we're not gonna get a salt spreader for it.
All right, I'm thinking of dump
Just like
truck.
an
I think-
F-450 or...
And what is it?
It's at, you mean the price of the truck?
No, what is it?
F-450 or...
It's an F-450, it's being purchased off the Michigan My Plant, and
Okay, so
it's already in stock, we were able to locate one.
I say move it if the board doesn't have a problem with it. Doesn't sound like
I
they
think
do.
Say move it.
I'd say move it,
Yeah,
yeah.
all right, here we go.
I
Okay.
agree.
The other items that are highlighted in yellow, we'll have to ask the planning commission to review, just more clearly define replacement year. If it's yearly, it needs to be moved to the capital asset revolving fund
Or it's removed, period.
or remove period.
And we don't have to ask them, we can do that. This board can do it now that
This-
they've approved
What,
it.
what did you say? What fund? I'm sorry, I missed that.
Oh, the capital asset revolving fund is the Fund 447, or Tree mentioned just leave it or remove it. There's all kinds of options.
Now that the CIP has approved this, now our township board can do what we want.
We are way off of needing a Jake. The Jake we have, we basically have a new Jake right now. just so you guys know, we bought used Jakes, and with the Jake that we have, we rebuilt one with all three of them.
They're asking to replace the Jake in 10 years.
Yeah, that's what I'm
So that's
saying.
why it's on.
That's
there.
why it's on here.
So you would wanna move it to the capital fund?
Nope.
No, we'd leave it here.
We'd leave it
because
here.
it's over
Okay,
six.
yeah, that's fine.
Yeah.
But it will cost $150 to replace it today.
That's where they
Yeah.
need to come in, total replacement costs.
Right,
They need to
so,
update this.
okay.
The reason it's highlighted in yellow, it's also budgeted for in Fund 447. It's in both places.
Okay, good.
So that's why it's highlighted in yellow.
Moving on, we're good.
All right. If we're good with all that, we can go into, start back at the top with the fire department. We're going to be on line 732.
Okay, so there are very few changes in, we're at 206 right now, correct?
Fund 206.
Confirming. Okay, so there's going to be very few changes in this. What I will do is go over anything 20% of a line item change that has a high dollar with it. First two are going to be income. One is going to be federal grants. Obviously, that is going to be dependent on what we receive throughout the year. We do currently have just under $190,000 out in grants that we're requesting. Second thing is going to be line.
One second, Bob. You said in federal grants, line 738. What grant money coming in?
Well, we don't know yet. It depends on if it's awarded. That's what I said. So 501 right now is 0.
Okay.
But there was a significant change from last year because we did receive a grant.
Okay.
So that's why I was covering that. 617-1, that is going to be our EMT program. So as of right now, we obviously see a 100% decrease in that because, again, we don't know what that would be. Go all the way down to 728, which is postage, and 740.1, which is rehab. We move those into an
Oh,
operating
you moved to
fund.
expenses.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Go down to 750, which is software expense. We are moving one piece of software from the medical equipment is what we have that under software expense. So that's why you see the increase in that. Also, just because software prices do typically go up every year. So that way we have that to account for it. Next item is 809, which is computer equipment. That one we bumped up 25%, just so we can continuously do improvements every year. So that way we're not running into the issue that we have to do mass improvements at any one time. And then all the way down at the bottom is the capital outlay. Like Bob had said, that ambulance that we ordered, I believe in December of 22, we do now have the funding, so once that's received, we should be able to pay cash for that. So that is what that is in there for planned. And then is there any questions? Like I said, I went through that semi-quick, but we didn't change a whole lot to it.
Looks good to me.
Okay?
Anybody else have anything? You good?
Pretty clean.
You good, Bob?
Yes.
Thank you so much.
Well, he's got Fund 211 yet. You're good.
Good. Okay, and then 211, everything's going to remain the same on it. As you get down to the bottom, we do have still that principal payment, that balloon payment on the ladder truck that is due this coming fiscal year. So with the principal and the interest is just over $576,000. So what we have been doing is plugging away anything that we've been not using, obviously, into the fund balance. So with that, and then this current budget, we do have the money for that. And then once we get that paid off in this next year, then what we'll do is, just like we're doing with 206, is we'll start to put money into the fund balance for capital improvements.
Okay, good? Sounds good.
Okay?
Good, Bob, moving on.
All right, last time we covered Fund 207. That pairs up with Department 301, which is the police expenditures. We did cover that, we're good there. After Fund 211, we're on line 1008 in your packet.
Page 20.
Metro Act Fund. This is the,
It was 36,000 in the Metro Act fund?
oh no, that's just the revenue
Yeah.
that you plan on generating this year.
Okay, so that's what I was gonna say, I thought, okay, there it
The
is.
fund balance 420.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, the board needs to get creative on this Metro Act fund, I mean, it's a lot of money.
This is the Telecommunications Right-of-Way Act, is what this is.
Right, it can be used for a lot.
We've used for a lot.
Anything in the road right of way.
Anything in the road right away. Which,
Sidewalks?
sidewalk.
Summerfield,
Yeah,
Summerfield
that's what I say, it can
sidewalks.
be used for anything, so. We should probably pull out of that if we do the sidewalks. That's one of them, you know, that's a perfect thing to do it for, so. We can worry about that, just keep that in the back of our mind, that we have a lot of money in there,
Yep.
so. Okay.
Next one is Fund 246, which is the very next one down. This is the Local Community Stabilization Fund. This one has a fund balance, if we receive the revenue, which we should, 137,000.
So this could be used towards the maintenance, the old maintenance building.
No, no, this can only be used for police and fire.
Okay.
And economic growth.
Yeah.
Okay, because it's not what I'm reading and what it says.
I'll read the box on line 1041.
Is that what you're talking about?
I'm saying where it says organize the activities of local government, town, you know,
Your lines must have changed a
Yeah,
little bit.
Yeah.
So I'm showing
Oh.
1038.
yeah, that's what I'm
Oh,
saying.
whatever that is.
Yeah.
The one-
37,
The one in the big box.
That's what I'm saying, we should probably
If
make
you
it clear
read the
exactly
law-
what it is.
Yeah, we should probably state the law.
Yeah, we should
because
state the law in there.
says police, fire.
I'm gonna highlight that in yellow.
I mean,
Yeah.
your budget's gotten this far, you might as well keep going with it and get better and better with state laws and the
Yeah.
budget.
Because I thought I pulled that right from the,
No, because we were told you can't use that for anything.
Strengthen neighborhoods, communities, and to me,
Yeah.
that's pretty clear that it can be used for strengthening a neighborhood if you're gonna rehab a building to make the community better.
Yeah. that's
So,
not
could
right.
we do some research on that?
yes, I highlighted it in yellow, I'll do that.
I'm not saying I don't believe you, I'm just saying,
No,
what this is saying, if you
Yeah,
pulled that
I
out,
don't know
that's,
where that came from.
Yeah.
it doesn't
I got
say
it right
anything
here.
about police and fire.
Funds, 246, local community stabilization, here's the act. Right here.
Can we,
Let's just
That's
do
right.
research and.
Yep.
can we just do research and come back to us?
Yes.
Because
Yeah,
we
we'll
wanna
do
get
that.
through this.
Just make sure.
Yeah.
I've gotta be to dinner by 7:30. So, let's keep moving.
Downtown development. Everything pretty much stayed the same here.
Yeah, DDA, I mean, other than the light pole, monopole projects, you know, that's the major projects they're moving forward with. There might be some miscellaneous things to maintain, you know, the park, you know, the bridge is getting towards the end of its probably life, so, you know, we'll be looking at that closer. So, yeah,
Are those lights still going in?
yeah. Yeah, it was close to not, but, yeah, it's still happening.
So that was the operating fund, this is the capital fund we're referring to.
Right. So,
Capital fund is here. Anyway, it's pretty much the
Right.
same year
Yeah.
to year. That brings us to the library.
And just so the board, well, Trudy and Kristen knows, but our assessing department, our new assessor, found an extra 100 and something thousand a year within the DDA that we weren't getting. So, money well spent on him.
All right.
What did that, what did that?
Money well
I
spent.
hear it.
Just, he wasn't capturing.
Well, capturing.
Some of the parcels that should have been marked were not marked before.
So, it's a benefit of having, you know, a professional group. They're gonna catch things like that, so. And that's not the only thing he's caught, they've caught a lot, so that department's kicking
You're
butt,
up,
so.
library.
Paul's gotta be to dinner.
Paul's gotta be the dinner, let's hurry up.
Yeah.
We're just, I mean, we don't have to say anything if you guys just want to. Here we go.
Take that minus 3 lines.
So we have a couple of projects listed in there, of course. A couple things, just in the revenue, just to cover that real quick, I did stick some money in there for a grant that we're gonna go after for one of the projects that we've got. We are interested in installing an EV charging station on the north side of the building, and the solid waste department has those green grants, and he told me that the cost of the charging unit is eligible for us to apply for a grant for that. So I'm anticipating.
How will people pay?
That's what I was
The Harry actually did up the request for bids on that, and it
You don't have to explain it, will people be paying?
to be determined, to be honest with you.
Because if people aren't paying, you might as well pull that off.
From the research that we've done for the places that already have charging units, the electricity usage is so minute that there's
They're
not,
violating the law.
there's not a point.
They're violating the law.
To pay.
It's that simple. You can't use taxpayer money for individuals. Somebody from Ohio or anywhere
Yeah.
could be coming here and using
Right.
taxpayer funds to get their electricity. I don't care how small it is. I'm just telling you it's the law.
Okay.
If they're doing it in other areas, they're violating the law.
You have no interest in an EV charger that.
Oh, I think they're
everybody
great.
can use.
Well,
No, that's if nobody's paying, if they're.
But if
coming
nobody's
up.
paying, it's.
Yeah.
All of the EV chargers come with an option for a cell phone app that people just install the app, and that's how they pay. That's how they find a charging station in the first place, and then they just have an account that they set up through that app that puts funds directly into it for them to pay when
Do
they're
we
using the
get
charging station.
anything out of that from somebody paying to use the electricity? Do we get like a 3% extra fee, or, I mean, is there a need for an EV charger at the library?
There's a need for EV chargers all over our country.
Yeah, there is.
And
I
a
mean,
library is a perfect place to have one because it's a great place for
The
somebody to come and
DDA
spend some
looked into
time.
one because they're an attractor for people to come to it, but a supercharger. You have to have a
Yeah,
supercharger.
we have very few of them available in our area, and the grant funding that's coming from the federal government right now is covering costs along interstates.
I say
We're
move
too far
forward
from
with
an
it.
interstate.
Move
for
forward,
them.
but you just do the homework on how it's paid for.
Yeah, and we've done that already.
So if it's under the.
I will say we've done that already, and already the city of Monroe has taken the funding, they don't charge for the use of theirs.
They're a city.
Ann Arbor doesn't charge for the
They're a
use
city.
of theirs. The libraries there, though, don't charge for the use of theirs.
It's-
Like,
But if they're within a city, it's
all of
different.
them,
You
all
can
of
do
them
that.
have, well, I'm just saying, this is the research that we've
Yeah.
done.
I'm just
all
telling you,
of-
if you
all
want to
of
make
the-
it quick though, find out if people are paying or if they're not paying. Because
Well,
that's,
the requirement for the installation in the project that we've done requires that there be an option for people to pay on the charging station that's getting installed. So,
okay.
And
As long as it has an
it's-
option for them to pay, they have to
it's,
pay.
yeah, pretty much any of the charging
Okay.
stations, unless it's a
And
home
if it's
use
tied,
one.
if
comes
it's tied to the township, credit cards, you get a fee here anyway, so
Right.
it'd be something
They
that'd have to be
can't, they
automatic.
can't use a credit card though,
No,
because they.
but your app has to be tied to a credit card
Right,
or an account.
right.
So the township, it goes through the township, they could charge it that way.
All right.
Our issue comes into the charging station itself cannot be using the internet from the library in order to run a credit card and accept a credit
Well,
card.
leave it in there and just keep doing research.
So-
Keep, you know,
That's why they would have to use an app, because then they're using their own network on their phone to charge to use the electricity. That's why that has to be set up that way.
It's still gotta be tied to the township though. Because who are you gonna pay? Directly to the
Has to be
electric
tied to a
company?
Bank account.
That's why I say you have to be tied to it.
They're gonna have to do the research.
That's what the
bring it to our
software, that's
board.
what the
At that
software on
point,
the charging
You
station
know what I
is
mean? At that
for.
point, we can get all those questions mauled out,
Yeah.
let them continue on.
Yeah.
you know,
Yeah.
Bring it to our board, and at that point, we can determine if to move
Right.
forward.
So anyway, that was in the revenue because I anticipate we'll be able to get a grant for some of that. The more expensive part is installing the electricity to be in the right spot for the pedestal to be installed. So that's the cost that's on here. Other than that, the projects that we have, we're pretty, it's pretty much the same throughout the entire year. The only projects that we have is there's still microfilming on there. Now it's just the Bedford Press, so I think we have about, we do this every 3 years. Microfilm is still the preferred medium for people to use in a local history collection for genealogy research, so that's why we continue to do that. Bowling Green State University actually does the microfilming for us. Last time it was the 2 papers for 3 years' time. And it cost us about $1,000, that's why I put that in there. Now we only have, like the Bedford now, we have about for the first 9 months of the 3-year period. And then it's just the press after that, so I assume it's gonna be less than $1,000, but since I don't know exactly. They do provide us with a CD digitized version of all of those as well, so we do have that available. That's just for us to keep for local history purposes. So that's in there for next fiscal year. That'll be at the end of 2024 that we have the 3 years worth. And then we still have some additional lounge chairs that need to be recovered in a vinyl type fabric. We've done an awful lot of that already in the library. We need to keep doing that.
Library looks great.
Thanks. It needs to be a nice wipeable surface. Having fabric chairs increases the opportunity for bed bugs to leave a person and stay on a chair for the next person who sits on it. We don't want that to happen. So vinyl discourages bed bugs from leaving whatever host they are already on. So the more vinyl, the better, in my opinion. So we need to continue to do some of those. We also have to work on some of the wood tables throughout the library. We have some lovely scratching graffiti style things in some of those wood tables, but structurally the tables are okay. So the research we're going to do is to find out if we can just refurbish those tables, and it'll be a lot cheaper than replacing them. Those big wood tables for a library specifically, because they have to be sturdy, are really expensive to buy, so I'm hoping we can just refurbish. And then we're working on installing a cargo lift. This is another thing that Harry has already done up the spec sheets on. We actually had Pat look over there today to see if the space that we have for this looks reasonable. What we're talking about is essentially a cage. It's a 4x4 cage that would allow us to move things up and downstairs into the attic for storage. Right now, my staff is carrying them up the electric stairway, and I think it's a miracle that somebody hasn't gotten hurt. So we want to make sure we can stop doing that. But our attic is huge. It's a great storage space for all of the holiday various things. It's just difficult getting them up and down.
That cargo cage, is that included in the 20,115, or do you have to add additional for that? I don't.
It is in that. It is in the. I put it in that capital outlay, which might be the wrong place to have it.
I
can
got
tell me
EV
that,
charging
Bob.
stations and kitchen, so we should also add in.
Oh, well, maybe I misspoke then, because we're trying to get that. We're trying to get that done this fiscal year, so that's in the current budget.
The
that
current
we're in. I'm
budget,
sorry.
okay.
Yeah, I misspoke. It's happening though. We'll bring it to you guys to approve for us. Yeah, and the kitchenette. We want to improve the space in the kitchenette in the community room to make it more useful and usable for the people who are renting that room. I think if we put out a push on various social media sites to rent that space, we will get a lot of people.
You will.
I am amazed at how many people are willing to spend that kind of money for a 1-year-old's birthday party or whatever.
The thing
I
is,
mean, it surprises me because like a 1-year-old's
you
not
guys
gonna
are
have
already
a
set
birthday
up
party.
for that.
Yeah, it's
You have the
perfect.
parking, you have the facility, you
Yeah.
have the bathrooms, you
Yeah,
have,
it's really and it's a beautiful space.
right.
it's a nicer space than some of the other places that they can get
I think
to
that'd be
rent.
better.
I think if we push it, I think we can really make some more revenue on that. But this would help make that kitchenette space a little more useful to them, because it's very
Plus, it would
limited
just
right
be
now.
nice for your guys' events in general.
Right,
I mean,
Right.
when you're doing cooking, or even the Santa thing,
right.
you know
Oh
what I
my
mean?
gosh.
You're
The
using
amount of-
microwaves to heat up sausages.
The amount of, well, and we're running them from the other side of the building over
Right.
there. That's really
Crazy.
what wears people out.
All right, anybody have issues with these things? Anything else?
I think that's.
Thank you, guys, this is how it's
Thank you.
supposed to be done. It makes it easy on the board when you're organized and putting packets together and, you know, having
Yeah.
Harry and Dee, you guys, and Al, you guys do a great
I
job.
know.
You're a great team.
We have a great group over there, and
So,
I'm very
good
happy
job,
with.
thank you.
It's been great having Al work with us too. I just want to let you know that he's been a great asset, so I appreciate that.
Okay,
So, okay, thank you.
Thank you.
thank you
Do you need
guys.
us for anything else?
No, you're
All
good.
right, thanks.
Opioid settlement fund, we have some cash there. We determine at a later date.
So, I know Al's contacted the sheriff's department to see how it could be used. Do you have an update on that? The opioid settlement?
No, that Bob and I talked very briefly, so
Why don't we contact the
you can
sheriff's
see
office
what you
and
want to
see?
do with it. We
what
need
we
to get
can-
rid of it, let's put it that way. 'Cause
Well, why
it's-
don't we do some research and find out what can actually be done
Right.
with it?
Bob, didn't you have some rules on it?
Oh, I got rules, I can send them to you, yeah.
Yeah, send them to me, then we'll take a look at it.
Send it to the whole board.
Send it to the whole board.
Yeah, and we can call Troy too.
Joe, you might have some thoughts too with your background, so.
What it,
I'd like to see what the rules are.
I was gonna say, do you have any idea what the rules are?
Yeah.
Can that go toward the
You're supposed to
resource officer's payment?
It's pretty very
I feel like that-
specific.
Send the things to the board and we'll.
Paying for your resource officer.
Yeah, 100%.
It's
I
like
mean, that makes sense to me.
Easy stuff, so. All right, send the rules, let's move on.
American Rescue Plan, on your handout. I think the only thing we have left on here is the maintenance building.
Right.
Well, we have some money for the parking lot at Township Hall, there's 100,000 there. The sidewalks were reduced, pretty much $0 were actually spent, so that was pulled out of ARPA. So the only thing left is the maintenance building and the repair of the parking lot.
Okay.
ARPA.
Moving on.
Transit system fund,
To be quite honest, we should probably hold off on the parking lot doing it this year with the construction of the new maintenance building.
Yeah.
Because
Agreed.
you could have digging up lines,
Yeah.
electrical lines, sewer
Yeah.
lines, major construction traffic, concrete
Heavy-
trucks.
yeah, heavy
Wait till the
heavy
wait till the
equipment
maintenance
over it.
building's done, and then
Because then we'll be fixing it again.
you'll be fixing it
well,
again.
what we need to do then, if it's not gonna be done this year, we need to move it out of ARPA. ARPA's gotta be spent.
Move it.
Just
Move it.
now, isn't there extra for the building itself? They put it into the building and then take it away from the other, your overage amount?
Can we just put it all towards the building?
All towards
Oh,
the,
yeah, absolutely.
Just to make it simple.
because then it's all in ARPA, and
Because-
then that, because isn't there overage
Yes,
somewhere
road.
anyway?
Yes.
All right, that's good. Moving on.
Transit system fund, we have about $1 million there. Water revenue fund, we have almost 2.4 million there. Rehab fund,
So much.
It's true. It's good.
Keep
We
going.
have so much
He just
money.
said we have a lot of money, and it's a good thing.
We do. Very well protected.
Oh, like in the water fund?
Just in general.
Just in general,
We have,
yeah.
we have.
We're in good shape.
Which is a good, yes.
We worked very hard to get here.
Imagine if a couple other government agencies had that problem. Goodness gracious.
Like the feds?
Like
It's not rocket science. It's not
every
rocket
single,
science
yes.
to do this.
Goodness
It's
gracious.
not rocket science. It's using your head a little bit. So, all right, moving on.
So Fund 305, Enchanted Forest, and Fund 307, Canterbury Forest, were the two that will pay the Bank of New York debt off.
All right.
All the other SAD funds have been moved to Fund 852, Special Assessment, and we'll get to that and we'll explain what's going on there. We consolidated all all those funds into one fund, so it's gonna be much easier to track. On our audit, we're gonna have one line now for the, oh, now it's,
Deficit
Deficit
elimination
elimination
plan, we
plan.
don't have to approve every
Every
single
single
one.
one.
we'll just approve one.
Why is that?
We combine them all into one account, for simplicity of recording.
It's just, but you're allowed to do that and, okay.
Yeah, just instead of having each one in a separate account, they just have their own line now, under the one account.
So when you see your pooled report in your board
So
packet,
you'll
it's
still
not
see
gonna
your
be
revenues
all
in
the
those
roads,
SADs.
so
So
you
you
have
have
just a few,
one
and then
line.
there's gonna be a couple. and
You'll see
then
all the
together.
same information,
Just no
just in
expenditure.
one spot. No, you see all the expenditures.
No, I'm talking about if we pay those off.
Oh, the expenditures are long done.
Right. So say that's paid off and
Okay.
then just the revenues come until they are done.
Yes. That will take us to, we're going way down.
Hey, Bob, quick question on that though. If we pay those off, there's no longer an SAD on that.
For those
From a bank standpoint.
That's correct.
So we're taking it out of general fund to pay that? The revenues that continue to come in, where are those gonna go? Just
Yep, I'll-
directly to the general?
Yep, what we'll do is when we've done Fund 852, I'll show you how all that's gonna work.
Okay.
That's gonna be what we call the legacy fund,
Okay,
and I'll show you how that'll work.
okay.
405 Road Capital Improvement Fund, that's what we talked about a little bit on the CIP plan. We budgeted $375,000 this year.
Page 34.
Oh, I'm sorry.
We're gonna nickname you Flipper.
Oh, I'm just watching the screen, I can't keep up with them.
These are the road projects that are planned in fiscal 2025.
Which with a $4,000 potential change, if the board approves it, we have a tile that's bad on the Erie Road project. It's a shared 50% cost with the road commission of around $4,000. It's on this agenda coming up, so.
Would it be for this fiscal year or next? When you
Whenever
spend
the project's done, probably next fiscal year. It
You don't
won't be
think
done
they're
before,
gonna-
it won't be done before July, no, I doubt it.
I'm just gonna put tile project until I get more information.
I
Who knows
have-
when.
Yeah,
Oh,
yeah.
when I get one.
You won't even see the bill till
Yeah,
the
you
next
won't.
fiscal year
Right.
anyway. Regardless of when it's
Well, we've been
done.
getting them the next, next fiscal year, I knew.
Right.
You're good, yeah.
I added 4,000.
Okay, good. All right, everybody's good with them? We've already approved them at a board meeting, so moving on.
We discussed Fund 446, which is Township Improvement Revolving Fund, and then 447, which is the Capital Asset Revolving Fund. We discussed those. This is the capital part of downtown development. We discussed those. Building Department, we discussed last meeting. Right, okay, I know why, okay. Sewer Fund. No real, I don't think, Christie, you don't think it really has any real?
No, although you tried jinxing me the other day.
Yes.
Almost needed to buy a new piece of equipment, but I don't.
If we have time remaining at the end, I'll talk about the sewer plant a little bit. Let's get right into Fund 852, which is the next one down. This is called the Special Assessment Debt Service. So what we did is we combined all the funds that started with a 3 and moved them into here, combined them into one. This fund should be self-sufficient over time. The more money we put in it now, the faster it'll be self-sufficient, which means when someone has an SAD, this fund will retain enough cash so we don't have to do any bonding, any borrowing, any lending from anywhere. This fund will take care of it all.
Which is huge,
Huge.
Huge.
so.
Yeah.
Very
Especially
much
for the
needed.
residents.
Yeah.
Can we fund that from the water revenue?
No,
No.
No.
we've been able to use it for SADs, but not
We've been
funding.
borrowing.
That's the big difference.
We've borrowed from it.
You can borrow from it, but you can't fund this, you cannot fund this fund with, okay.
The way we fund the fund is through transfers from the general fund, and now it's earning its own interest right now.
Okay.
So obviously we'll loan it on the SAD at a lower interest rate, and then we're not borrowing it.
We're not borrowing it, and all that interest that comes back in, we can then turn around and relend that. It'll become self-sufficient over time. If everything goes according to plan, at the end of fiscal 2025, it should be about 1.2 million, somewhere in that range. So we're slowly building it up.
Can you break that down really slowly for me?
Yes.
I'm just joking, I'm just joking.
Someone have dinner plans?
This is why it's important to have a good finance up guy.
Oh, man.
Seriously.
That's what I was just like.
It's night and friggin' day, because these are the things that we would have dreamed of when we all got in office.
Do we have one?
Goodness gracious.
I mean, this dude is just, I mean, it's great.
That's what I was just like.
'Cause we can't.
I was
We were- I
remembering.
mean,
I was remembering my
great.
first
That was one
my
of the first
first
things
budget
we asked
meetings.
Bob about Excel and
Goodness
his
gracious.
capabilities and going through this kind of stuff.
That's great.
He's done a tremendous job with this.
Good job, Bob.
Since we have a little extra time, unless anybody has any questions on the budget so far, I think we
I feel pretty good about it.
feel really good about it. The other thing that I created, this is just a work in progress. You're gonna look at your handout called sewer plant, and then you're gonna look at, there's a balance sheet in there. It'd be one pager. Craig, you may not have this in your.
I have sewer plant.
He doesn't have some of the stuff we get one.
Well, it's in your box downstairs.
Okay, I'll get it. I can follow. I'll follow along.
There's 2 balance sheets included in here also. What I'll do is I'll start with the 2 balance sheets. The first one, we'll do the one page. Across the top of the middle, it's called Fund 590, Sewer O&M Fund. This is as of, well, I ran it as of 4:30, but it was as of a week or 2 ago. What we're going after here is we're just looking at the cash. So there is the top 5 lines is the cash that's there.
This one.
The other balance sheet I want you to look at is the 2-pager. It's called Fund 565.716. This is held at Monroe County Drain Commission. Their cash is split up. You'll see certificate of deposit at the top, 900,000. Like the 4th line down, you see cash debt retirement, $1 million. Due from other funds, that is from the fund that they had to, when they remodeled the sewer plant. So the leftover funds will be coming into here, that's 1.7 million. A regular cash account at 2 million. They have another CD for 2.2 million. So with that information, we now go to the sewer plant handout, the Excel spreadsheet. You can start at the bottom, the last page. These are just rounding, just to get some round numbers. I started by just adding excess cash. So Monroe County Drain Commission has about 7 million in cash. We have about 3, so there's about $10 million in cash for the sewer plant.
And did we look into the fact that why we can't hold that in our own accounts?
Oh, we haven't got that
I'm
far yet.
I'm still working with Phil on that. He's working with them for us to get it back.
Okay.
So what I did is to the best of my ability, I tried to identify all the assets at the sewer plant and approximately when the estimated years until replacement. Did the same thing like with Fund 446. We should be able to replace the entire sewer plant with replacing all the vehicles and equipment constantly within 40 years and never have to borrow again. No bonding, no borrowing. But in order for this to work, we need to go through each one of these assets and truly identify what are we missing? Is the replacement year accurate? That sort of thing. So this is a start.
Perfect. Awesome.
I was gonna ask Bob, because I know you were trying to get a lot of answers, and are you there?
Still
Are
all
you
getting close, still working.
I just talked to Tim last week, and we're gonna get, Bob's asking his questions, he's having a struggle getting to where Bob fully feels good and understands about the payroll. So we're gonna get a meeting together and hopefully get an understanding of it. I talked to Tim, the way he explained it to me, I feel okay about it, but we want Bob to feel good about it too, because he's obviously smarter in this area than I am, so.
But we're still working.
We're almost there.
Once we get an
We're
answer,
close.
then we'll bring it to the board. Okay. That is everything. Thank you. I do want to check one more thing, which I should have done.
You gotta make a motion on it.
The calendar.
What else do we have to do in the budget? We gotta get an update.
I'll get an update out to everybody.
So once we get an update out to everybody, at that point, if board members feel we need another meeting, let's move forward with another meeting, but
Schedule already if we need it.
yeah.
We have two
so-
more scheduled.
Yeah, they're
Right.
scheduled.
April 30th will be the next meeting at 5:30 here, if we need it. But I'll send it out and we can decide. Moving forward.
All right, motion to, anybody have any comments, public comments?
Public
Al?
comment.
Good.
Motion.
Motion to adjourn.
We don't have motions.
No motion.
No motion. I rescind my
I
motion.
rescind my motion.
Mr. Gurney.
Enjoy your dinner.
All right, thank you.
What's his name? Yeah, it was basically the size.
They're little.
Engine.
They're too little.
Yeah, 'cause they're little.
Yeah, those.
They only got like a virgin strap in them.
You were talking toys for kids.
Yeah.
I like my Google Maps.
That's the way-
How'd you like my Google Maps?
Like we're playing in a sandbox?
You'd like that one for
You didn't see that?
That's what they're showing.
Well, when you did the